I once attended a session where Henry Kissinger was being introduced by Lou Gerstner, then CEO of IBM. And Lou Gerstner said, "This is a man who needs no introduction." And then Henry Kissinger came up to the podium and said, "Lou, you are being far too modest." This is a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. John McCain's distinguished career in the U.S. Senate over the past 25 years, it's not just that he's spent time there, it's that he's been a leading and consistent voice on national security, ardent supporter of NATO, enlargement, democratic reform, Central and Eastern Europe, human rights, never shied away from the tough subjects or saying things on them that he thought needed to be said. A graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, Senator McCain served 22 years as a naval aviator, including 5.5 years as a prisoner of war at the Hanoi Hilton during the Vietnam War. And during that time, he was subjected to torture, an experience that has shaped his strong views against torture, the use of torture internationally, and in support of human rights around the world. First elected to the House of Representatives in 1982 and the Senate in '86, Senator McCain is the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He also serves as a member of the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs, member and former chairman of the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, member of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, member of the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions. I only say all these things so you see the breadth of issues he's been dealing with. He's been a loyal friend of Poland. We were delighted to host him at the Atlantic Council this past March as our keynote speaker, along with Minister Sikorski, for our annual Bronisław Goremek lecture. On that occasion, Senator McCain received the Commander's Cross with Star of the Order of the Merit of the Republic of Poland. So now we're delighted to host you here, Senator McCain. Last night was a terribly moving evening. I think just one more time, I'd like to have you all not only applaud last night's winners of the Freedom Awards, but also the city of Wrocław and the mayor of Wrocław for giving us such a wonderful, wonderful place to meet and such a wonderful show last night afterwards. Please give us a round of applause. We're going to make this a town hall. That means I'm going to ask one question, and then I'm going to turn to the audience, and please come with your questions, no matter what they might be. Lots of issues. Middle East, state of democracy there. The senator's just come back from a trip to Burma. He's traveled recently to the Middle East. All sorts of things in the news from Secretary Gates' comments in Brussels provocatively during the week that we needed more help in Libya, to the point that he worried about a dim or dismal future of the alliance. Lots of grist for discussion, but let me tee it up this way. Egypt, Tunisia, Libya, Syria, Bahrain, tough stuff, all happening simultaneously. How do you prioritize? A, what does it mean? Is it 1979 Tehran, 1989 Berlin? Which of those is it? And how do you prioritize what you do when all this is coming at you? Senator.
Well, thank you, Fred, and I want to thank the Atlantic Council for their tremendous work on U.S. European relations and the great work that they have done over the years. I'm a big fan and supporter, and Fred, thank you for your leadership. Mayor, thank you for your hospitality in this beautiful city, and it's wonderful to be back in this great country, which is, I think, one of the best examples in history of a transition from totalitarian oppression to a free and open and vibrant society with a developing and strong economy. And and the reason why I mention that is because these young people that are engaging in the Arab Spring, no matter what country they're in, they are looking at the example of what happened after the Iron Curtain came down. They are looking at the example of the patriotism and the sacrifice that was made by the Polish people and the others who were living behind the Iron Curtain. You know, Fred, you ask a very question that really is hard to provide a short answer, but I think the first thing we should appreciate is that none of these countries are the same. And to compare Yemen and Tunisia and Libya and Egypt and Syria to some of the other countries is a bit unfair and frankly uninformed about the differences between these countries. Tunisia, where it all started, as you know, is a rather well-educated, cultured nation, one that I think has every opportunity, depending on what happens with their economy, to develop into a very strong democracy. Frankly, and I do speak frankly, somebody's going to have to tell me how Yemen becomes a country that is democratic and you know, one that we would view as a viable nation. But I would, without jumping from one country to the other, I would emphasize that Egypt is the heart and soul of the Arab world. It is the cultural, historical population. 1 out of every 4 Arabs who lives in that part of the world live in Egypt. And for a whole variety of reasons besides those that I just mentioned, what happens in Egypt will have a profound effect on the other countries in the region. And I don't mean to neglect any other country, but if it succeeds in Egypt, then I think it dramatically enhances the ability of the others. I have been to Egypt on a number of occasions. I'll be going again in a couple of weeks. Things have not been as good as we had hoped, nor as bad as we had feared. And there's significant and understandable impatience on the part of a lot of these young people. The military wants out, and frankly, the organization that seems to have taken best advantage of this situation is the Muslim Brotherhood. Whether the Muslim Brotherhood will adopt their new attitudes and behavior or their old ones is certainly up to question, and we'll have to see. But I think the most important thing that we can do, that Poland, the United States, the European Union, particularly those countries that are closest to the Arab world, is to do everything we can to provide investment and jobs. I'm sure you know that their tourism industry has been devastated. That's 10% of their GDP. I'm sure you know that people are striking for and receiving pay increases without commensurate increases in productivity. So if their economy fails, then that would open the door, obviously, to extremist elements. I'll never forget at a dinner in Tunisia, in Tunis, with a group of the young people that had made the revolution there. And this woman, civil society person, said, "Senator, we're not worried about the first election. We're worried about the second election." And that's what I think we need to worry about. Because unless there is jobs and opportunity and economic growth, then the chances of success in a part of the world that's never known this kind of success will be in much greater jeopardy.